Warning, the views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the producer and those appearing in the show and do not necessarily represent the views of DerryCAM, the town of Derry, or any of its staff or affiliates. Hi, I'm Anthony Henry. Welcome back to America's Ass. We're on episode 35. Weather's getting better. Walks here are getting slightly more good. So enjoying the nicer weather. Spring's almost here. But anyway, we're here with John Motta, our guest today. So please take a minute to tell the audience about yourself.
Yeah, my name is John Motta, and I am a Dunkin' Donut franchisee. Have been a franchisee my entire life, 44 years. I have stores located in Nashua, New Hampshire, Merrimack, that whole area. And I also have stores down in the Virginia Beach area. I've got a total of 32 locations, 9 in New Hampshire, 23 in Virginia Beach. I also am president of the United States Adult Soccer, which oversees all amateur adult soccer in the United States. I chair the Coalition of Franchisee Association, which is a lobby group that lobbies for franchisee interests in Washington, D.C. And that's about it.
So I guess the first topic that we'll cover on the show is how you got where you are. I know your success story, you started from the ground up and just built and built and built. So yeah, the floor is yours. Start anywhere you want.
Yeah, well, I'll start when I started with Dunkin' Donuts. So I grew up, my parents both immigrants. My wife is an immigrant from Portugal, the Azore Islands. And we grew up poor, I'll be honest with you. We grew up just, week to week. And my father had an opportunity to buy his first Dunkin' Donuts in Nashua, New Hampshire. Well, actually in Newton, Massachusetts in 1980. He bought his first franchise, then he bought his second franchise up here in New Hampshire in Nashua, which I moved up to New Hampshire to run the store for my dad. And then it just became more successful, and bought my first location in Merrimack, New Hampshire in 1987, and the rest is history. So then I bought my father out in Nashua, continued to grow, build more stores. And then I ended up in Virginia Beach because, as many of you know, there's Dunkin's almost every corner in New England. So the opportunity to grow in New England was very poor. So we had to look for a new market to grow.
Yeah, Dunkin' was founded in Boston.
Yeah, so. Quincy, Massachusetts. The first location is still there, and my two cousins own the original location.
That is very cool. So how many... I guess, fun question, how many Dunkin' Donuts would you say are in New England?
Oh, I couldn't even guess. I know New Hampshire alone probably has 300 or so. I would say probably 3,000 to 4,000.
I'd say that's probably right.
Yeah.
I know there's 5 in Derry alone.
Yep.
Maybe 4. But so you own 32 locations, correct? And yeah, well, what are some success tips that you kind of learned along the way, how you managed to build up your network into John Motta Enterprises? Is that it?
Well, it's pretty much a long story. I could take an hour talking about it. And I do lectures at college. I do them at UNH. I do them down in Virginia. So if any of your classes would like me to come and speak about business, I'd be glad to come and speak to them. But some of the success stories are, place a goal, make a goal, put it in your mind, and make sure it's a realistic goal, and it should follow you and get you to that goal. Don't make goals that are unrealistic. I know when I was probably my late teens, I was a supervisor in a hospital in Rhode Island Hospital. And I went and listened to this guy who was a motivational speaker. And I attribute where I am today to that one conference I went to with that speaker. And he used to be the Dallas Cowboys motivational speaker in the 70s. And he did say during that conference that You got to set your goals, realistic goals, and plan them in your subconscious mind. And if you put those goals in your subconscious mind, your mind will get you to do your goals. But they got to be realistic. I mean, you can't say, I want to be a millionaire tomorrow and it's going to happen unless you hit the lottery, right?
Yeah.
But, and I'll give you one example. I know I was in my 20s. When I first came into Dunkin' Donuts, I was 22. And as soon as I came to Dunkin' Donuts, I set a goal. It says, by the time I reach 35, I want to be kind of like semi-retired. That was a goal, okay? Was it next week or next year? It was 13, 14 years ahead of myself. And, 13 years came by, or 14 years when I hit 35. I mean, I never retired. I was still not retired. But at 35, I did things that I wanted to do. I wasn't like tied to my job anymore.
Yeah.
So that was one of the goals I placed in my mind, that I wanted to be like free at 35, and I did it.
So one phrase that kind of is in my family a lot, and I want to get your thoughts on it: do what you love and the money will follow. What are your thoughts on that phrase?
Absolutely true. I mean, I've always loved having my Dunkin' Donut business. I mean, like I said, I've been with it 44 years, and I love every single day of it, right? And because of that, I've been very successful. So, very true statement.
And I guess the counter to that phrase, that for people that don't agree with it, do hard things first, and then once you have all that success and all that wealth, then you can start, doing fun things.
Absolutely. I know when I first came to Dunkin' Donuts, I worked 7 days a week, 364 days a year, because we closed on Christmas. And I used to work from like 4 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days a week. And I did that probably for my first 2 years as a businessman. But like you said, you work very hard in your beginning years, and then following that, it'll get easier and easier.
And how much would you say a good education contributes to that?
That's a sticky subject. I will say that education is definitely important, right? Yeah. My 4 kids all went to college. 2 went to Southern New Hampshire. 2 went to UNH. All got their degrees. But they're all working for me today, right? Would they need those degrees to work for me? Probably not, right? But they have them. It's more of an insurance plan. But I will say this, that all my relatives, every one of my relatives, came from Portugal. They're all Dunkin' Donut franchisees, and they're all multi-millionaires with the Dunkin' Donut business. And guess what? They all quit school at 16. So education is important. It's good to have. But I think, in my opinion, if you're willing to work hard at anything you do, you can be successful.
So if anyone has seen The Apprentice, which is the show Donald Trump had long before he was president, they did a season on that show where the contestants were divided into 2 teams, book smarts and street smarts, people that had college degrees and people that had little to no college education. And I believe the winner of that season was someone on the street smarts.
Yep.
Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. Like I said, all my relatives, they all came from Portugal, poor. Today, they own apartment buildings, they own strip centers, they own malls, they own Dunkins. I mean, and they don't even have a high school diploma. So, street smarts, working hard, it'll get you far in life.
So I know a lot of people in my generation, a lot of my classmates at Pinkerton probably, well, definitely other schools, they're deciding, is college worth it? Because like you said, it's good to have a degree, and in some jobs you need a degree or you can't have that job. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, college is becoming increasingly strange. I mean, think of all the stuff that happened with Harvard and Penn and all those other colleges with the whole Israel and all that.
Palestine,
Yeah, all the Palestine stuff where Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, had to resign for the things she said, or should I say, didn't say. And not just the controversies itself, the money. Is, reading a book and talking about a book worth $20,000? Probably not. And like I said, education, and like you said too, education is good to have, but people like me and my classmates are deciding, is it worth it for what I want to do? And those students, myself included, I haven't fully decided where I'm going yet. I still have a little time, but not a lot of time. I got to decide that.
Yep.
And some of you, if you're one of my classmates or if you're in high school or middle school, you got to decide that too.
Yep.
So what would you say to any of the students, such as myself a little bit, that I guess need to decide their path? If they're going to college, what job are they going to have?
Yeah. Well, I think that, again, a college degree is good to have. And like you said, for some occupations you must have, right? But I will reiterate that you can be successful without that degree.
Yeah.
It all depends on your work ethic, right? How hard you want to work, how much you want to dedicate into whatever you want to do, right? I'll just give you an example. Let's say you didn't want to go to college. You came up to me and said, John, I want to work for you at Dunkin' Donuts. I want to learn the business because I want to own a Dunkin' Donuts, right? I mean, sure, come work for me, work a year or two, learn the business inside and out. And if there's an opportunity, you might have to move somewhere, but may have an opportunity to buy a Dunkin' Donuts shop. Well, did you need that degree for that? No. You just came to work hard at my location. I taught you everything I knew, and now you're ready to open up your Dunkin' Donuts shop, right? Yeah. And you can be as successful as I am and my relatives. And I'll give you another example. All my relatives that came from Portugal, they all had children in this country. They were all American born. They all went to college. They got law degrees. They got all these degrees. Guess what? They're all working at Dunkin' Donuts for their parents, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't need those degrees. It's good to have, but they didn't need them to do what they're doing today. And they'll probably end up being more successful than if they pursued the career that they got the degree in.
So on immigration, immigrants in this country, they make up our country, really.
Absolutely.
And putting aside all the border nonsense, that's illegal immigration. Legal immigrants are the bedrock of this country. My great-grandparents, the Sassos, came from Italy. They arrived in East Boston, and they became successful.
Yep.
Just worked small jobs, built up their money, and my great-grandmother ended up working for the Kennedys. I have a letter. She worked on one of their events. I have it somewhere. I don't know what the event was or what the project was or building, but I have a letter signed from Jackie Kennedy thanking my great-grandmother for the work she did for the Kennedys.
Wow.
So immigrants have a strong work ethic because the place where they're coming from might not be as free and prosperous as America is.
Yeah. Well, what I've seen in my family, because, I'm first generation born. My parents and my wife all came from Portugal, all came with nothing, right? So when they got here and they started working in factories or wherever they worked in, every penny they made was so valuable to them because they didn't have that in their own country. So they understood the value of money, how important it is to save money, right? Almost any immigrant you ask them, I'm sure they have saving accounts with quite a bit of money in them because they need to save, right? They all own their houses. I can remember growing up in Bristol, Rhode Island, which was 70% Portuguese populated. And when I go to high school with my friends, all I hear them say is, these are called the Portuguese in Rhode Island greenhorns. That was their nickname, greenhorns. Yeah. And you know what a greenhorn is? It's somebody that's brand new at something, right?
I've heard greenie before.
Okay, well, they're called greenhorns too. So I go to high school and I'd hear my American friends saying, I can't believe these greenhorns. They've been in this country for a couple of years and they already own a house, they own brand new cars. You know why? Because they don't go out and eat on weekends. They don't buy foolish things. They buy what is necessary and they save for their houses, their cars, and because they had nothing where they came from, so they value the money much more than the Americans do.
And way back when my great-grandparents first came over, and before that even, business itself was very different. In New England especially, take Manchester. Manchester was all mills. Mm-hmm. If you go to downtown Manchester, almost on the west side, you'll see UNH, that was a factory. Yep. You can still see the mills. Even in Derry, where we are now, used to be all shoe factories.
Yep.
There's a building, it's like a, I guess, strip mall with apartments above it. It's called the Granary. You can still see one of the cogwheels that powered it. And if you look into like the history of all the fires in the factories in Derry, it's really interesting if you ever want to look at that. But how would you say innovation has changed the way business people think? Because Manchester's about to become a mini tech hub, when before it was all mills.
Yeah. Well, innovation is good, of course, but you know what worries me is all this AI stuff. I was at a conference last year in Las Vegas. We had this guy speaking about AI and the future of it and what it can be. And I mean, I left there like almost scared, right? Because the possibilities of what AI can do is almost scary, right? So yeah, innovation has changed things, but I think what the future is going to bring is going to be even more tremendous than what we're seeing with the innovation that we've seen up to date.
And how would you say today's political climate will influence innovation?
I don't know. I mean, as we all know, political climate is horrible in this country, very, very divided. I don't see that changing even with this next election.
No matter who wins.
No matter who wins, exactly. It's going to stay divided. And it's unfortunate because America, as we all know, is such a great country. And to have the division we have in this country, I think hurts the country. How much better can America be if we were all united and all working up for the same goals? But again, I don't see it happening in the next election. And I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime. I think it's so damaged that, it's going to take somebody really strong and powerful to bring us all back together.
And personally, I don't think anyone running now or in the past is that person yet.
No, I agree. Absolutely agree.
And what you said about America being one of the best countries, there's a reason, like I said earlier, there's a reason that we have so much immigration here, legal and illegal.
Yeah.
The illegal immigrants also have a reason for coming here. They want a better life.
Absolutely.
Because Central America, Mexico, it's a lot of poverty. Haiti's another one.
Yep.
So much poverty, so much crime. And some of the people coming over are criminals looking to expand their mini crime empire.
Absolutely.
And those people are bad. So legal immigration is really important. I know some Republicans want to pause even legal immigration, put a moratorium on it. I don't agree with that personally, because there's people that have good intentions that want to come here.
Yeah.
Play the game the right way.
Yeah. Let me talk a little bit about immigration because.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We need immigration badly in this country, and I'm going to give you a statistic. There are, in September of last year, so it might have changed, but not by much. There were 10 million jobs available in the United States. There were 6 million people unemployed in the United States. Now do the math. 10 million jobs, 6 million people not working. Now, if every one of those 6 million people got a job, there would still be 4 million jobs that would be unfilled, and there would be nobody left to fill those jobs. So how do you fill those jobs? And luckily, living in New Hampshire, we get to meet a lot of the presidential candidates during the primaries. Yeah. And I sat down with almost every one of the candidates and asked them that same question. How would you fill those 4 million jobs? And not one candidate gave me an answer that I felt good about. And I'll be honest with you, the only one that had a semi-good answer was Nikki Haley, right? But then again, she starts with, if she becomes president, she's going to demand E-Verify for the whole country. Well, E-Verify takes out all the illegals because they can't get a job. So those people won't be able to get jobs. So we're going to be left at the same place where we are now. We got all these jobs available. We don't have people to fill them. And what happens? You go to hotels, your hotel rooms don't get cleaned. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and you see all these empty tables and they says, well, it's going to be 30, 40, 50 minutes. And you got all these empty tables. Well, there's no wait staff to wait on these tables. Carpenters, everything. I mean, there is not one industry in the United States that isn't crying for help. And the only way to fill that job, to fill these jobs, is with a legal immigration system. And with the Republicans pushing back, apparently they're not business people because they don't understand how grave the situation is in this country.
Speaking of Congress and the immigration system, one big headline we haven't talked about yet was the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. He finally got impeached by the House by one vote.
One vote.
I think it was 214 to 213. And this was the second vote they did. The first one failed by 3 votes. So they moved some stuff around. But anyway, it passed the House. Not going to pass the Senate because you need 2/3 in the Senate. So no way that'll happen. That's going to fail on arrival. But I think the fact that they realized, even with whatever they did to get that win by 1 vote, they realized something's wrong if thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants can just come here without any trouble.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a mess. I mean, you look at every big city in the United States, New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco. I mean, even Logan Airport, people are like sleeping at the airports. I just saw Atlanta yesterday on the news where they had to make a law to get people out of the airports because there was just immigrants everywhere. I mean, you're allowing all these people into this country and just letting them roam around. I mean, it's just a sad situation. And, unfortunately, this administration has supported that. They have done nothing to curb it. And so who suffers? The American people, our beautiful cities, right? You have people sitting out, sleeping on the sidewalks. I mean, it's just a huge disaster. And, I think the message for Mayorkas is a good one, right? I think it brings the issue to the forefront.
Yeah.
But nothing's going to happen with it, as you said, right?
And circling it back to New Hampshire, one thing that has arisen from the border, and I've said this before, is drugs. New Hampshire has a huge drug opioid problem. You live in Nashua.
Which is one of the biggest.
It's one of the biggest cities in the state,
Yeah.
and it has one of the biggest problems, along with Manchester, Claremont probably too.
Yeah.
So I guess moving to some local politics now, what's it like in Nashua with, you had a recent election that we didn't really get to talk about much on the show, but Mayor Donchis, who is very iffy, is still there. Susie, unfortunately, did lose. I was really rooting for him. So what's it
Well, I
like
was
in Nashua?
rooting for Susie. I mean, I know Jim Donchis very well. I mean, and I will say this. If I need something from Jim, he gets it done. I mean, he gets it done. If I have an issue with anything in the city, I've got his cell phone number. I'll call him. He gets it done for me, right? But I think Susie, in my opinion, he didn't run a very good campaign. I thought he ran a terrible campaign. Every time I saw him on Facebook, he was talking about putting signs up in people's houses and didn't talk about the issues at all. Everything was about signs. And I kept scratching my head saying, when are you going to talk about the issues and not how many signs you got in people's yards, right? So I don't think he ran a very good campaign. Yeah. But I think, Nashua is a great city. I love the city of Nashua. Again, I think it's a safe city. I mean,
It's one of the safest in the country.
Yeah, I have no problem walking around downtown or anywhere in the city of Nashua at night by myself or anything, Could somebody attack me? Somebody can attack you anywhere, right? But I feel that, Nashua is a pretty safe city to walk around with and having no issues.
And like in Manchester, everyone that ran in Manchester worked their butt off.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason they had such a big turnaround in that city.
Absolutely.
Getting a Republican Board of Aldermen for the first time in like 30 years, a Republican mayor who's doing great.
Yep.
By the way, speaking of him, hopefully, not confirmed yet, but we have to do a job shadow for economics. I might get to job shadow Mayor Rue. So that.
If you need help, let me know.
Okay.
If you need help with Ray, let me know. He'll.
I got his number too.
Yeah, he'll.
He's a great guy. If you haven't watched the Board of Aldermen meetings in Manchester, check those out because they're getting pretty heated.
But talking about him, and you compare his the way he campaigned versus the way Susie campaigned in Nashville was night and day. He was knocking on doors. I mean, every time I saw him on Facebook, he says, I just did 110 houses today. I did 115 houses today.
I did some houses with him.
I know. And Susie was talking about signage. So you could see that, to your point, you campaign hard and go out and give your message, you have a really good shot in winning.
And that circles back to business. If you work hard and not, flounder around, wandering around trying to figure out what you're going to do, you're much more likely to be successful and have money.
Oh, absolutely. That's been every time I speak at schools, universities, whatever, that's always been my number one push is, no matter what you do in life, work hard at it and you will be successful.
So going to talk briefly about Derry stuff like I do every episode before we go, because Derry's a mess. I sent you a couple things about what Derry's doing. The school board had a public forum last night again about this new school they want. And again, brief summary for anyone who doesn't know. They want to close 2 elementary schools, build 1 big new one to replace the 2. It's going to cost about $72 million, add over $1 on the school side to the tax rate, which is insane, especially for a small town like Derry. And they did this public forum last night, and again, the school board, they called it a listening session, which, that's such a bad example. Like last episode, we had Sean Faber on, who, he was talking about talking to people at Dunkin's and stuff. Just getting people's opinions by talking to them, not talking at them, like our school board's doing. And one thing that struck me and a lot of other people as odd, they kept talking about air, saying that the 2 schools that they want to go, one of them's definitely closing, but now they want 2. Bad air. They're saying this new one's going to have better air. But at the same time, South Range, which they want to close, has some of the best test scores in the state, while some surrounding newer ones have very low ones. So I really think they should reevaluate their arguments. And I know you don't know much about it, but just surface level, what do you think of what our school board's doing?
Well, I mean, I don't know your school board. I kind of see Nashville's school board. And what I kind of see at, even around the country, school boards in general kind of think that they're empowered like, the kings out there, that they got so much power that, what they say goes, and what people think doesn't matter, and what parents think doesn't matter anymore. They are the experts about everything, hands down, and they're not there to, listen to anybody's opinions.
So we're almost out of time, so if you have a brief closing statement, go right ahead.
No, thanks for the opportunity to be in here, and I enjoyed it. And again, if you want me to come and speak at your schools or your classes, feel free to call me. I'm always happy to go share my story even a little bit more in detail at the schools.
I'll talk to Pinkerton about it. Thank you for coming on. It's really interesting how you became successful. Love hearing about it. So anyway, I'll keep everyone updated with our school board. See if they learn the error of their ways. The election's coming up March 12th. Make sure you vote if you can. I'm Anthony Henry. This has been America's Ass. Thank you for watching.